this is right after that.
Yeah.
So we're doing a bunch of late night streams tonight. Semi-late night streams. Later than usual. Usually it ends at around 9, and then I just kind of do my own thing. But tonight we're doing multiple ones a little later than usual. So, you know what's really awkward that I started doing again? I don't know why.
What?
Started going through, like, in my own free time, going through and trying to finally actually beat FF13. And I don't know why.
Yeah, can't tell you. That's something I do not know.
Like, I started it up originally when I started the run that I have going now. It was like, hey, I'm just, like, hanging out and talking to Tia while she's playing too, and we're effectively playing the game together, which is cool. However, she has not continued playing it, and I have, for reasons I don't fully understand, or even partially understand for that matter. I just don't know why I'm still playing it. But I guess I guess in my case, I just want to finish the goddamn game. I've had it since it came out.
Again, like there's all the like Minecraft is really invested into actually wanting to finish anything in order to actually finish it, and even then, like Yokai Watch, Splatoon.
I feel like that's different, because with Splatoon, it does have a story, but it doesn't really have a story.
Like, she has Persona. She has not finished Persona. She's picked it up like 5 times, but she has not finished it.
To be fair, I haven't finished Persona, but I haven't finished Persona because I keep starting other shit. Though, I think... Probably. I think the thing I'm going to end up doing is once I finish up with 13, then I'll have like another game, another long RPG that I just don't remember playing that I can beat. Just that I can actually, start beating games I bought years ago. So it doesn't feel like I spent however much money just to have a paperweight.
Yeah. I get it.
Because there are definitely some games that I bought for full price that I have not played since I bought them.
Yeah.
Then there are other games that are like long games, but it's not like a long game that I got for full price, so it's not like I would like to finish it, but it's not as far up there. Like, I got FF13 day 1 for full new game price. That was also back on PS3 around the time when the first one came out. Full price PS3 game was still around $60. Now it's $80. Shit.
No, 80 you can buy the whole set for less than $5.
No, I mean a new game. Like, when FF15 came out, that was $80. I think it still is. Because now the only version you can buy is the super awesome Royal I'm the Hero of Life version. But, like, new game back when 13 came out, $60. New game now, $80. So, obviously there's some games for PS4 that it's like, well, I do need to finish these. However, when I'm on PS4, people are awake, so PS4 is like my I want to play with other human beings kind of time zone. So, like, when, like, you're on, or Riley's on, or whoever, That's like the time I use to hang out with people because I'm lonely. As opposed to if it's like just like midnight, you're asleep, you've been asleep for a while, Riley's probably asleep. So at that point it becomes, well, I need something to do. And what better thing to do for a gamer than to play a game?
Yep.
So, start up long, extensive RPGs I've never finished, and then I can get to doing things, and I'm like, with 13... I remember when I first got the game, like, I remember my first run getting to where I got, and the reason why I stopped playing wasn't because at the time I thought the game was terrible, it was because my save got corrupted, and I didn't want to spend another 150 hours getting to where I was.
Yeah, wasn't that one
It's when I lost my original account.
Yeah.
So, pretty much. might as well have been. But because of that, I lost my save files for that, and for a few other games. I think one of the games I lost my save file for was Harmony of Despair, but it didn't matter because like we really enjoyed that game. So yeah, I lost my save. However, we were totally down with doing it again. Then we did it again, but this time better, with more incredibly rare loot.
Well, for your end.
Yeah.
I think
You got the Cold Solus +1,
like,
which I've still never seen. You were still the only person I've seen who's... That's what I mean, though. You were the only person I've done the run that should give me that weapon countless times.
Yeah,
I still haven't seen it. I know I got the Valman way, I'm just saying.
You got to figure that way.
But like, when my save got corrupted, I went from like the second last boss of the entire game, like I didn't even have a full zone to complete before I was done, to save corrupted, I have to restart. So I didn't really want to restart. Once I made the new account, I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna give this game a long break, and I will come back when I am ready. So now that like you're starting school again soon, Tia's back in school now, Riley works, and sometimes he just doesn't really want to communicate with human beings. So I need something to do. Which just so happens to be that my decision for something to do is, how can I waste a multitude of hours in a very short period of time?
Best.
Like, now that I think about it, like, for PS4, I still have, until recently, I had Warriors All-Stars, which I did technically beat a run. The issue is, I think there's 36 runs in that game. Final Fantasy Type 0, I still haven't beaten. Tales of Zestiria, I haven't beaten.
Really?
Final Fantasy... Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just haven't. And then I haven't beaten Final Fantasy X too. That's just things I have on disc. That's just things I have on disc, though. Like, I have those games just on disc, sitting, waiting for someone to play them, and I just haven't because... Yeah, I guess. So now that I'm, like, on the border of, I need something to do, no one's really around. Yeah, here's a bunch of hyper-extensive RPGs. So, the first one I'm starting with is FF13. And then either the next one might be either 13-2. Like, I might do the entire 13 series, because I haven't beaten any of them. I'm pretty sure I got all but 13-2 for full price. Which is terrible. But it's either going to be, I'm going to go from 13 to 13-2, or I'm going to go from 13 to, like, Tales of Symphonia, or Tales of Grace's F, because I still haven't finished that game either. However, I will have to restart these games. Thing is, with, say, 13, like, even the parts that are obnoxious aren't that obnoxious. So, like, one of the biggest things that I've had that I have fought so far that was kind of a problem is when you get to Grand Pulse in the last third of the game, the last like 2 or 3 chapters, you can fight the Adamantoise and Cactars and Gigantars and stuff like that. And Gigantars are a problem. Cactars aren't a problem, but Cactars, the only attack they have is kick. Like, they don't have 1,000 needles or anything.
Needles?
No.
Really?
But
weird.
Gigantars have 10,000 needles. So you don't see 1,000 needles on the little ones. So you have, you're like, okay, well, there's no needle attack in this game. I've got nothing to worry about. And then you fight a Gigantar, and it's like, I have 10,000 needles, and you don't have over 10,000 HP. No, I have bad news, friend.
Unless you have auto life.
You'd need Auto Phoenix on everyone and a stupid number of Phoenix Downs, because that's its only attack.
Oh, it's the only one?
That is his only attack. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because 10,000 needles doesn't have damage that's, like, based on your defense or anything, apparently. Like, it seems that, hey, it's using 10,000 needles. Unless you have 10,001 HP, it's going to kill you. It's so annoying. And then with the Adamantoise, there's 2 versions of it. There's the Adamantoise and then the Adamanchild, which is a baby Adamantoise. No, the Adamanchild, not that hard to beat. Actually, pretty easy. You can, like, they're really easy things to farm for, like, getting, there's an item that they drop, gold dust, and it gives you, like, 15k gold per, and usually when you find an Adamanchild blocking an item, it's a gold nugget, so that's another 60k. That's a lot of money that you just get from killing a small giant turtle. The thing is, yeah.
Little big dog is not a thing.
Yes, it is.
It's a normal dog.
It's not a normal dog. It's a little big dog. Anyway, then the other end, when you fight the actual Adamantoise, the Adamantoise doesn't act the same as the Adamanchild. So, like, in Final Fantasy X, when you fight an Adamantoise, it's just a normal enemy. Like, it's just a really big enemy. It's one target, but it's huge and has a lot of HP and defense. In 13, the Adamanchild is just a really big target with a lot of defense and a lot of HP. The Adamantoise is a 3-target enemy.
Oh, interesting.
So there are 3 things, each of which have a lot of HP and a lot of defense. So with the Adamantoise, you have to attack and destroy its 2 forelegs, then the actual main body itself.
Gotcha.
with the normal, like, littler ones, they don't. It's just the one target. They're incredibly susceptible to ice. They don't do that much damage. Like, they still hit you for a ton, but they hit you for, like, a little over 1,000 if you've got pretty okay defense. Meanwhile, the Adamantoise steps on the ground one time kind of okay lightly, and then kills your entire party. So, like, you need to be able to somehow summon each of the 3 party members' Eidolons in the fight, or something like that. Like, get an Ultima weapon, or be able to summon multiple summons, or something.
Something.
You just need something that doesn't... Yeah, you need a big game changer to take on an Adamantoise, which is why you get a trophy for it. There is a trophy for fighting and defeating a very large turtle. However, fighting the moderately large turtles is just something you're supposed to do. Like, that's supposed to be just common thing.
Common knowledge.
Yeah. Knowledge. Like, fighting the little Adamanchilds, that's supposed to be, like, your go-to grind spot until you're done with Grand Pulse, because they give you 45-50 CP, so experience kind of, but not really, which is quite a bit. Yeah, from one enemy, that's insane. That's like borderline, not quite, but very close to being boss experience. It does.
Like 6 or 7, they stopped giving it.
Yeah, well, in 13, it technically gives boss XP, but it's not called experience. It's like you don't have levels in 13 technically. You get CP, which is Crystarium points, which is it's going to affect your levels. Like you put those points. Yeah, you get CP per, like, after you finish a fight, you get CP, and that's your experience. But it's not like, hey, you get the CP and you immediately go up a level. It's you get the CP and then you invest it, and then after you finish a circle on your Crystarium and get a skill, then you go up a level sometimes. Like for your base trees, once you get to the end of a circle, it's like a zone of the tree, then you'll get a level for that tree, and then it kind of accumulates each tree's level as to what your level is, which is so awkward because it says Adamantoise is only level 10. Or something stupid like that. And the Adamanchild is level 5. If you are level 5 fighting an Adaman anything, you done something weird and hacky, and I don't understand you. I don't understand, but I want to learn. But like, it just weird how it scales the levels, because technically every, like, up to Grand Pulse, like, once you get pretty far into Grand Pulse and you're able to just constantly fight the dragons for farm, you theoretically should be at least at level apparently 8, but you'd think you'd be at like high 30s or something, maybe 50s somewhere. No, you're lucky to be like level 12. If you're at level 12 or more, you have been grinding a lot.
If I recall correctly, one of the big issues you'll have with that is the fact that because of the way they have to get kill bosses to unlock the ability to use Crystarium.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest problem. Like in 10,
you can't over-level technically.
Okay, so here's the difference between 13 and 10 that changes how they are. So in 13, technically, once you get to a certain point, let's say once you get to Grand Pulse, you have access to every class, not everything, every class. You have access to Commando, which is just your basic, like, heavy hitting, just does physical or void damage. So, like, you can still technically use magic, but it's ruined, so it doesn't do it does magic damage, but it doesn't have an element. Yeah. And then Ravager, which is your elemental damage, does less, but makes it so that enemies can stagger, which makes it so you do double damage. Then you have Sentinel, which is pretty obvious. It's the tank. It makes it so that you can block and you can provoke enemies, stuff like that. Saboteur, who's the debuff. Synergist, who's the buff. Medic, should be pretty blatantly obvious. And once you get access to all of them, it's kind of up to you. Like, you can sort of build every character how you want, to an extent. So you get 4 or 5 circles in the trees that aren't part of the character's base set. So, like, for Snow, the most hated character in the entire goddamn game, because he's bad, you get the Commando.
He was pretty bad.
In the OG 13, he's terrible, he's not good. There's nothing about him that's appealing.
He's not
yeah. In 13-2 and in Lightning Returns, technically he's not a playable character, so it's a different bag of worms.
Actually, no, in 2 he helps you in battle,
but he's not technically a party member.
Yeah.
But as a party member in 13-1, it's an awkward state. Like, as a Commando, Lightning, Fang, and Saz are all better. Hell, Snow and Vanille are better, and they're supposed to be mages. As a Ravager, literally every character is better. As a Sentinel, Fang is better. That's it. The only other character that has Sentinel as a base is Fang. Like, Hope and Vanille, you need to kind of get to the point where you have access to all of their things to give them any form of tank. And Commando. But, like, the only time you should ever use Snow in 13 is early game when you don't have a choice. Once you have a choice, his stats will always be so much lower than everyone else's. And even then, like, usually your incentive to use other characters is, hey, you should swap from Lightning to Snow because the boss you're coming up to has a very allergic reaction to ice and not lightning. Maybe lightning is completely absorbed by that boss. You just don't summon the Eidolon. More so than you swap lightning out for Snow. Because even with Shiva, Snow isn't good. That's how unappealing of a character he is in terms of how his, like, stats go up. So, like, everyone else, it's kind of like early game, it's kind of like a almost flat line, like it goes up a little bit.
Super useful against the
Vanille gets Kiraja early. Kiraja heals everyone. She gets it pretty early. Kiraja's the best healing spell in the game. I think. And she gets it pretty early on in one of her basic trees. Like, once you unlock the ability to get her basic trees to, like, level 3 or 4, it's just right there.
Cheese with Vanille's summon that made it where you could cast instant death on Turtle.
Yeah. There's
that was the easy way of fighting, but the only thing was that wasn't guaranteed.
The thing is, it's
3 times you die.
Yeah. The positive thing is the fact that Vanille has an incredible magic stat, and her resists, like, her ability to use healing magic is also obviously incredible, seeing as she gets the best healing spell in the game. as a basic, like, just build into it normally. You don't need to wait until end game to level into it yourself. Hope just has, like, so if you go off of what each character's quote-unquote best tree, like best class is, Vanille is hands down, I think, Saboteur and Medic. That's it. She's a really good debuffer, and she's a hell of a good mage. Hope is a really good buffer and a hell of a good mage, but for offensive magic. Snow sucks, but he's a pretty okay tank. Like, before you get Fang, he's your tank. You put him in because he's the one that can tank hits. Fang is like your late game character. When you first get her, she's obviously not going to be as good as Snow because you've been able to level him to that point. You get her, and you have to level her after you get her. But her stats are kind of... Yeah, her stats are above... Her stats are above where Snow's should be by how the game is set. Like, when you get Fang, Snow should be much, much, much weaker than Fang. But if you actually put the time into leveling Fang, she will very quickly become a hell of a lot better than Snow. But the downside is Snow can theoretically get higher stats. However, Fang has Bahamut, so yeah. Yes, you can technically get higher stats, but until then, you're just not as good. It's like Hecatrice or something. It was Lightning got Odin, Snow got Shiva, Hope got Alexander, Vanille got Hepio thrice or something like that, yeah. Saz, I think, got like Hecatrice or something like that. I always called it Valkyrie. I don't know, I always called it Valkyrie because when it's in its humanoid-ish form, it looks like a Valkyrie, just with an anchor instead of with a sword. And even then, you can technically count the anchor as a sword, so, you know. And then Vanille gets whatever that thing is called, and then Fang gets Bahamut. And I think out of all of them, if you go off of, like, not the summon itself, but off of what happens when you pop the summon into vehicle mode. Odin is a horse, which makes a lot of sense. It's Odin is a horse. Shiva's a motorcycle. Alexander's a castle. He's a castle. He just sits there and hangs out. Yeah. Saz is a race car. I'm a race car. His is a race car, yeah. Vanille's is some sort of weird gun turret thing with what looks like an erection. Yeah, that's real. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And then Fang's is Vanille. Or Fang's is Bahamut. Bahamut turns into... yeah, Fang's is Vanille. She rides her hand on her. Anyway.
You're not wrong.
Fang...
You're not.
But instead of it being like... With Odin, it's like, oh man, Odin's a horse. Makes sense. Valkyrie's a car, like a race car. Makes sense. Saz makes more sense to have it turn into that than it would to turn into most other things. The only other thing that would kind of make sense is his turning into an actual jet. Snow's is a motorcycle because he's supposed to be the cool guy. Alexander is a castle because what else is it gonna be? It's gonna be a big, thick, tanky thing because it's a big, thick, tanky thing.
It's gonna be a freighter.
Yeah,
you know?
like it's just gonna be an island.
Fucking ship.
Just an island. Hope summons his Edola and hangs out on his shoulder for a minute, and then he's like, you know what? He's an island now. He's just a continent. Yeah, he's just a continent, just floats. I live on him. Less metaphorically than you'd think. But, like, then there's Vanille's, who's just like, when it's in its more humanoid form, looks kind of creepy, but in a cool way. When it's in its weird gun form, looks cool until you notice the trigger. Which is the thing that looks like an erection. And then Bahamut's Bahamut, you can't go wrong with a giant goth dragon. That turns into a jet. You just can't. It's a giant fuck-off dragon that turns into a jet. It's like, what if there was a dragon and also a transformer? That isn't the dragon transformer from the movie. Because that is a thing. In Transformers The Last Night, there's actually a transformer that is just a dragon. Not like... Wait a second. How the hell do you disguise yourself as a dragon? Not just any dragon, a three-headed dragon. I think the funniest thing was where I was at before today, when the thunderstorm was happening, and I didn't really have any other options of things to do. Like, I couldn't do my stream at 3 because thunderstorm, so I was playing 13, and I got Vanille's. I was on the summon fight with Vanille's summon, which we're to make it easier for everyone. We're just gonna call it Gun. When I was fighting Gun, it's the only Edolan fight in the game, I think, that technically doesn't give you, that gives you just over, like, it barely gives you enough time to be lenient. So, like, if you want to play it safe, you have to cast Libra so you know what to do. But you only have enough time to cast it once. So if you want to know everything you can do, then you have to look it up, or else you're gonna have seconds, like few, like not even, just barely double-digit seconds to finish the fight. In my fight, I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what I could do and the best way to do it so that I could win the fight and not get wrecked. And because it's Vanille's summon, its best things to let you unlock it is healing, debuffing, and combos, because they're all of their base thing is apply combo. Like, just hit the thing. Because that's it. That's like the base thing everyone can do. But then there's like the two subcategories that like with Fang, like, she can get Bahamut pretty easily just by being commando and slapping the shit out of it. Or she can be a sentinel and provoke it and just take the hits. Or she can be, I think, a saboteur and debuff it. Help out that way. With Saz, he can buff his friends or do damage. Like, everyone has their own kind of unique thing based off of what their base 3 classes are. The problem is with Vanille, for some reason, I've noticed upon actually doing the fight today, her animations are just slower than everybody else's, especially her attack animations. God forbid you have her set to commando ever. Because her attack animation in Ravager, her, like, Black Mage stance, or class, is slow, but she just has to kind of lift her stick. So it's not super slow, but it's still kind of slow. When she's a commando, it's like she still does the lift her stick thing, but then the pointy parts at the top of the stick that you think are just there cosmetically and they do nothing, all have to come out and one by one hit the target. That takes like 10 seconds per time you use attack.
Or you could just not.
Or you could just not, yeah. You could just focus on, if she's ever in commando, only use Ruin. Or just never use commando. But, like, if you want her to have good stats, so that using her other classes, she can just do better, you do still need to go into commando. Because every tree gives you stats, regardless of whether or not that class is equipped.
You're using it. Yeah.
So, yeah, you're never going to have Vanille on commando, but you still need to make sure commando is the same level as everything else, or else her stats are going to suffer. And that's bad. It's better game design than other games that I've played that have been RPGs. It's just not good. Like, a thing I can compare it to, which is somewhat topical because I'm playing a Digimon game, in Digimon World Data Squad. That game, that was a PS2 game. And you had your Digimon companions, effectively your starting Digimon for each character, were preset. But their evolution path wasn't. So you could have an Agumon and turn it into something else, not quite as freely as you can in Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory, but it's still semi-freely. Like, you can turn an Agumon into other things, but it was like kind of a preset huge tree of crap Agumon can turn into. So, like, you could turn him into his new line for, like, Geo Greymon, Rise Greymon, and Shine Greymon. You could turn him into the normal Greymon line, or at least normal Greymon, and then War Greymon, and War Greymon X and Omnimon. But you could also turn it into, like, a Guilmon, and a Gaborimon, or Goblinmon, depending on where you're from and what pronunciation you use. Because apparently there are 3 of them. There's Goblimon, which is supposed to be the North American one that not even North Americans use. Actually, I think it's used in Japan more often than it's used in North America. Gaborimon, which is the Japanese one, that's the most common. And then there's the actual thing that is in Japanese that I couldn't say to save my life, because I can't speak other languages. And then there's, like, other things from there, and there's certain enemies that are, like, special bosses. Not quite like super bosses, but definitely not things that are easy to fight.
Super boss.
Yeah. They're like mini super bosses.
They're super bosses. You're supposed to eat these in order to actually kill the super boss, and then eat him.
The issue is that is
sub.
Yeah. So with Data Squad, the way that it works is you can find things like Darktramon and Ghoulmon and War Greymon X counts as, like, the sub super bosses. And then with the exception of, like, one or two with the exception of, I think, only one boss, all of the other real bosses in the game are part of the 7 Deadly Sins. And not only are they the main game bosses, they're also the super bosses. So, effectively, in order to get all of the evolutions in the game without cheating, you have to beat the game, load the save, and then beat the game again, pretty much. Because you have to go back to the areas where you fought said bosses to fight said bosses again after you beat Lucamon Satan mode. The best thing is, with the Lucamon line, there's the North American one, which is Lucamon Dark Angel mode, and then Lucamon Fall Down mode. In Japan, it's Lucamon, who's the little human angel, Lucamon Fallen mode, which is the normal adult size with half angel, half demon, and then Lucamon Satan mode, which is the giant Goth dragon that has the giant ball of death, and then Lucamon Larva mode, which is inside of the giant Goth dragon, but like you never get to use that in any of the games, so it doesn't really count. Like, it exists, it's just not technically real. Like, it's one of those things where, like, it is a thing, it does exist, but you've never been able to use it in any of the games it's been in, or where the other versions of Lucamon have been in the game. Mm-hmm. It's like Lucamon's base, Lucamon Fall Down mode, and Lucamon Satan mode. They were in Data Squad, they were in Digimon World Next Order, they were in both Cyber Sleuth games. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a pretty common evolution line that you can technically get, but it's usually really difficult because, you know, Satan. Of course.
Having an actual Satan.
Yeah, having literal Satan. It's gonna take a minute to get. But, like, once you get it, you understand why it took so long, because his rookie form in more or less all of the games is the equivalent to at least a champion. In some of the games, it's equivalent to, like, an ultimate. And that's pretty rare, considering that it's supposed to be a rookie. Oh god, Kiba, what the fuck just happened?
Bar?
There was a giant mic explosion.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Not worth it. Say he only has 80% chance of succeeding again, which is annoying.
Though I think the thing that's the most interesting about the Data Squad games is, even though or the story games, I guess, even though in Data Squad that was the first game that introduced the 7 Deadly Sins as playable characters, they're pretty much impossible. Like, it's not realistic that you're going to get them unless you're trying to 100% that game, which, by the way, takes A, an ass load of time, and B, a lot more effort than I feel like you should put into to getting 100% in a game. It's not a bad idea, it's just you could spend your time doing better things. That probably takes less time than 100%ing Digimon World Data Squad.
I don't know, you'll have a lot of parts for that. There's only one completionist run. And that was cutting shit out. That was cutting out any old backtracking, any old like side quest turn-ins and all that other shit that he cut out.
But like, think about the idea of that. If for certain games that are like kind of newer games, some of them are shorter than that game just because of the fact that if you wanted to get any of the cool stuff, you had to kind of go really far out of your way. But that wasn't the only thing you had to do. For some of the some of the just normal evolutions, you have to maybe get a certain amount of steps, have and spend a certain amount of money, open a certain amount of chests, fight a certain amount of Digimon, have a certain amount of Digimon evolutions, have a certain amount of specific Digimon evolutions. Like, there's some, and it's like, oh, make sure your Digimon can turn into 4 Dragon's Roar Digimon. Yeah, that's really specific. So you effectively need whatever that Digimon is to be able to turn into 4 different dragons. Which not everything could easily get that. If it was in the tree somewhere saying, hey, you need to turn into 4 dragons or 4, I don't know, winged beasts or whatever. I think it's winged guardians, but like if you had to turn into 4 of something, it was usually something you could actually obtain. It would be like, hey, if you want to get Omnimon, well, you need to be able to turn into at least 4 different Megas, which is a lot of different lines of Digimon. Like, in order to do that in the Agumon tree, you'd have to get Shine Greymon as a Mega, Gallantmon as a Mega, War Greymon, that's only 3, and then I don't think he has another one until he gets access to Darkdramon, which is halfway through the base game, not counting the extra crap. A little over halfway through the base game. So, that's not super worth it, because it's going to take you, I think, with the easiest route, it takes at least 95 hours to get Omnimon. Because of the fact that you need to grind so much in order to get the certain things, just to get to access to getting near the Megas, not counting actually getting the Megas themselves. So you end up spending so much time just trying to fiddle with the evolution system that's fighting you, effectively. And then after that, you also have to fight with the fact that once you get to the evolution you want, you're not necessarily getting, like, that's not going to be the best evolution for you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, technically, by the time you get Geo Greymon, you can have access to, I think the minimum is 2 other evolutions before a specific little thing happens in the game that is very annoying. Because there is a grinding countermeasure in that game, where naturally you should theoretically be able to, before you finish the tutorial of the game, get to level 7. However, once you get to level 7, if you do any other fights, there is a chance you will be wiped completely. Like, your party will get insta-killed by the lowest enemy. And the worst thing is, the attack that would proc getting your team wiped is an unblockable, hits every target for max damage attack.
Oh, that's mean.
And at the point when you're in the tutorial, it's actually max damage. Once you get to where you'd fight him for like story purposes, you have Megas. You have the ability to defend against that attack because you're on the same level. It's not, hey, I'm 2 stages ahead of you, I one-shot you now. Yeah. So it goes from being, that's not too bad, to, what does fair mean exactly? Because clearly it's not this. Because it's just, you're getting kind of wrecked because you needed to grind. Like, if you needed to grind just for a little bit, just to, like, make sure you're safe for the next boss fight, like, if you don't feel safe going into that first boss, or whatever boss you're on, when you're, say, level 5, you want to make sure that you can get to level 6 or 7 so that you feel safe enough to go into that boss. The thing is, if you get to level 7, you now have a chance to where you can get, in a way, soft-locked out of being able to get past that part of the game. Because of the fact that every enemy can do that. That attack that can technically insta-kill your entire team unless you're all megas, everything can do that if that thing starts happening. So it soft-locks you, so that you can't progress anymore. Technically, nothing is wrong with the game, but now, unless you've made a secondary save, you're kind of hosed because you can't continue anymore.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I learned that a few times. Well, not a few times, but, like, I learned that really quickly because of the fact that when I was playing that back when I was in elementary school and that game first came out, I played the shit out of that game, and I tried to get around that little thing, because I thought, okay, well, it's just like...
There's got to be a way to bypass it.
Yeah, there's got to be some way around this. Like, I have to be able to get, like, up to at least level 10. It's the tutorial. No, that's not even a bug. That is a game mechanic. You are not capable of getting up to level 8 in the tutorial of Data Squad because it will screw you. Meanwhile, in certain other like in Final Fantasies, all of them, like in most Final Fantasy and in a few other RPG-style games, you are heavily encouraged to get as high of a level as you possibly can whenever you can. Because otherwise, probably going to die. Yeah, you're probably going to lose.
Well, you say that a lot of the FF games, you, aside from like 13, because for some reason that series really likes to, hey, try a level, please, with level price.
In 13, you don't really have a choice. You kind of need it.
Usually you can just run through the game normally, and if you're running through the game normally and just fighting everything that you wind up
is in your way, then you'll be fine.
You'll be okay. You may have some issues in certain spots, of course, but then you just stop being a bitch and use items.
In certain situations, it's less the problem of, hey, the problem right now is you're too weak, and more the problem right now is you're not abusing some of the things we're letting you abuse to make your life easier. And in that particular case, it's usually, well, you're losing because you're doing something dumb.
You're not using potions because
you're not using your healing items, or you're not using...
You're only relying on healing magic because...
Or you're doing a run and you're using magic, but the thing you're fighting is immune to the magic you keep fucking spamming, but you haven't learned to swap to the other one yet. For some reason. Like, stuff like that. Like, at the point where you're losing because of something like that, that's your fault. But, like, in Data Squad, it's a lot harder because, like in the Cyber Sleuth games, when it's like, hey, like Digimon have different types: data, vaccine, virus, and neutral. It will make damn sure you know which one beats which, and it actually matters in gameplay. Meanwhile, in Digimon World Data Squad, pretty much. Meanwhile, in Data Squad, you're lucky if that doesn't get you, if knowing that doesn't get you killed, because it probably will. Because, like, it's really good to know that there is a rock, paper, scissors mechanic in Digimon games, just all the time. The thing is the fact that even if you know that, might not help you all that much if you're guaranteed that it's not going to do anything. Like, if you know, hey, if I use my vaccine dinosaur to attack this virus demon-looking thing, naturally the dinosaur should win that fight because vaccine versus virus, vaccine wins. Just not in that game, because in that game, just because your thing is the opposite of their thing doesn't necessarily mean you win that fight. Just because it wasn't implemented in that. It was implemented in the game to where you know that your Digimon is a vaccine, virus, or data, but not to where you would know what counters what, and even if it mattered that it countered whatever. Because even if you were like, my data is attacking this virus, there's nothing that shows that you're doing more or less damage, or that you have a higher crit rate, or there's nothing that shows you that your thing that it should be weak to what you're fighting is weak to what you're fighting. So for all you know, your damage is perfectly fine, and the fact that you're not doing as much as you should be is normal. You just need to grind more.
Yeah.
But usually that's not the case, and it's just you getting wrecked. Defense. Hey, I can actually get Imperial Digimon now. And you're not super low on that, so that's actually possible. Nice. The awkward thing I'm thinking of now that we're talking about this is I don't remember how the grinding works in 13.2 because that game has a pet system.
Yeah, most of it's pets.
So I don't know if I don't know if it's like, hey, you grind and you level up, let's say Sarah, and Sarah gets stronger, or if it's you level up your pets and that affects how your other characters get stronger. I don't know. And that's going to screw with me a lot when I go through that game, whenever I do decide to do that.
I feel like it was basic grinding, but
I don't know.
Sure that only certain level A's only appear in certain spots, so like there's suboptimal areas to grind.
The other thing, like in Worlds of Final Fantasy, I like that game's level system because it actually it's like Pokemon with Digimon mechanics. Like it's a Pokemon level system where they all have like a guaranteed evolution line. But it's Digimon-y where just because it's a guaranteed evolution line doesn't mean that it's like you specifically have to immediately go into that. Like you can wait for whatever it is that you have before evolving it. You can like make sure that it gets all of its skills and stats and everything and then evolve it, or if you just don't feel like evolving it at that point, don't.
Yeah.
Like you never have to. It's obviously a really good idea, but you also have to understand that it's also something that you need to understand that like in that game, yeah, you want to get like if you have a baby behemoth, well it's a medium stack. That's awesome. But you also need to understand that you have a stack, and that stack is limited to 3 party members for each character, but still it's a 3 thing limit. So you need to like keep in mind, hey,
actually technically it's in 2 different sets.
It is.
Your TV form and your big form.
It is, but you only have the 2 stacks in the fight at one time.
Yeah.
So you have Lon and his sister. Why can't I remember her name? She's the one that actually wasn't shitty. Rain. No, you can. You can swap in the overworld, and in the fights, it's both. Like both of them are in there. It's just a matter of you have to focus on making sure both of their stacks, like regardless of what form they're in, you need to make sure they have a small, medium, and large. Just a matter of what you want to have. So it gives you like another little mechanic of you kind of have to make sure that if you have, say, a baby behemoth and it's crazy powerful, well, you're going to want to make sure that it's in the stack while it's being incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. Or make sure that, like, if you're going for, like, I want to make sure that I can get everything to where it has all of its stats and stacks. That way, like, once everything has all of its stats and everything like that, at least then, you know that it's at its strongest or weakest or whatever. Mm. Which, if it's at its strongest, it's obviously going to be better. Like, if you have it so that your baby behemoth can, whenever you want, evolve into, like, its normal behemoth size or its king behemoth. Just, like, if you need that, you can just swap to it. It's good to have. That way you have access to the different forms for different situations. Cool. But at the same time, you're probably always going to want to have, like, for the end game team, even though it might be nice for you to complete the compendium and have each and every, like, effectively complete your Pokedex and make sure you know everything's evolution line. Mm-hmm. You're probably just going to have, like, 2 smalls that you use and 2 mediums, or 2 mediums and 2 large, or whatever other combination of crap you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. So in Pokemon, that shit would transfer over when you transfer your Pokemon.
The information on their entire evolution line?
Yeah, because it's just one of those things like, oh yeah, you have the final evolution of these things, but you don't have the second version or second form of them. So guess what? You gotta do it again.
You have a Charizard that you're trading over, but you've never seen a Charmeleon or a Charmander in this game, so you've no idea that those exist.
Also,
all you know is there is a Charizard.
Yeah. Can't get them in that game, and then
like, if for some of the newer games where it's like, hey, here's, well, I don't know, I want to, like the Zygarde thing. Here's Zygarde 10%, 50%, 100%. Well, you either need to get 3 Zygardes, or you need to trade a friend who, like, have 2 friends and trade between them for the other 2 forms. And honestly, not a fun time. I just realized the quest that I'm on now is our friend Yu asks us to help him out, and he even hires us for a job. And then once we get there, he's like, okay, here's our, like, once we accept the job, he's like, okay, our meeting place is the corner store kind of thing, like the handyman store in Ikebukuro. Mm-hmm. Doesn't tell you anything other than he wants you to help out with a job, and the job is going to take about all day. Then when you go to the first zone, he's like, okay, so what I actually wanted is, I want you to help me test out a bunch of things for if I ever get a girlfriend. So you get to play the girl.
What?
Meanwhile, your friend Yu looks like a chick. You look very obviously like a dude. It's That's very creepy. Confusing. And your options for things to say to him after he says, you get to be the girl, are, it's a case, I guess I don't really have a choice, I'll play the boyfriend, or, okay, let's get started. Your options are, well, it's my job. Your options are, accept it, it's your job, accept it, but you want to dominate the relationship, or accept it wholeheartedly, knowing that you are now being treated as a woman. regardless of what you choose, you kind of get screwed. And the worst part is, during this quest, during the events, he'll be like actually talking as if you're his girlfriend, and all of your responses are the feminine response, even if complete disregard as to what you say. And usually his responses will be like, "Oh, this is something you wanted to do, sweetie," or "Hey, look at that fish, it's kind of cute, but you're cuter." Like, motherfucker, I'm a dude. What? The other thing that confuses me is during this quest you learn that in this aquarium, not only do they have like the normal aquarium where there's like clownfish and other normal fish, there's also a penguin thing. Why is there a penguin thing in an aquarium with fish tanks and not land? Like it's not like it's an above ground aquarium. Like you're on normal ground level. You go in. There's obviously like the ceiling, and it's the sky. Like you can see outside the sky, and then there's all the aquariums on the sides, but you can see that, like, you know that you are on the ground level and they are just elevated. No, this is like you're in the subway and then the fish are where ground level would be, kind of thing. Like you have to go down to get into the aquarium, and yet penguins, who breathe oxygen, by the way, how are they surviving in this aquarium?
Magic.
Then I think the other thing that's kind of interesting with this quest is your second thing after the aquarium is he wants to take you to a place that has a Ferris wheel. But the closest Ferris wheel in reality, in the real world, is about 30 minutes away, so it requires you to like pay for transit kind of thing. So the closest alternative is in Under Kowloon Level 1. The issue is Kowloon is for hackers, and most of them are sociopaths. So like, you go and you're like, hey, it's a Ferris wheel, and you know, it's supposed to be, you know, like helping him for getting a girl, but if it was this exact situation and everything, once it comes to the point where it's like, hey, this is cute, and then you realize, right, but there's people who are definitely not only willing to attack us, but they really want to, they would enjoy it more than they should. Because it's not like some of the hackers in normal Kowloon are jerks, like, but they're normal jerks. Like, they'll steal your wallet kind of thing, but they won't, like, do anything super big and bad. Under Kowloon, which is, like, the deeper version of already a shitty place, well, that's where people who are willing to sell off not only your account, but probably also your avatar for various uses. Yeah. Keep in mind, this is the same game where we watch a quote-unquote simulation of a kid getting every one of his classmates to stab the shit out of his teacher and then jump off the building. So you know the implication. You know the implication of selling off the avatars to be used in multiple ways. Yeah. The implication of this ain't good. The best thing is the person who comes and like points out to you and your character is like he straight up comes up to you and he's like, well, you two lovebirds really need to get a room. You're trying to make me feel bad for being single. His title for his name is Deep Voice Hacker. And then when he's talking to your friend you, and you is replying, keep in mind you as a dude, the hacker's like, huh? You don't fool me, missy. Immediately it's just like, you're a chick, because here's the information about you that makes it so that everyone just assumes that you is a chick. You has light purple hair. Like, it's purple, but it's like a lighter shade, so it's almost like borderline, like almost pink, but still dark enough to be considered purple. Has a sweater that's the same color, and then has a dress that is black. This is a dude wearing a dress.
What's he wearing?
Meanwhile, your characters, best case, like the closest thing to what looks like the closest thing you could assume is a feminine outfit that your character can wear is the female model's shirt from the first game, and the only reason you would know that that's a female's shirt is if you played the first game. Otherwise, it just looks like a shirt. Like, it doesn't look like it's specifically made for chicks. It looks like it's just a different colored shirt that even a dude could wear. I just realized that you also is wearing, like, white pants, but because the pants match the skin color, you wouldn't know. Yeah. It's like, he's wearing pants. Except for you don't know that he's wearing pants if you're not paying very distinct attention to the fact that he's wearing pants. Like, if you don't already know that he's wearing pants, you wouldn't know that he's wearing pants, because nothing is going to tell you that. And it doesn't look like it when you stare at him. It just looks like, man, he needs to get out more. Because, Jesus Christ, his legs are white. And the funny thing is the fact that in this game, even like... So the way that it works in-game, like in the game's world, there's telephone booths everywhere. But they're obviously not used to connect to the telephone because in the day and age we live in now, you have a cell phone. Why do you need a payphone? Unless your cell phone is out of time, you shouldn't really need to do that. And then the other thing is, it makes it seem like in this world, there is permanent free Wi-Fi everywhere unless you're underground. And even then, you still technically have Wi-Fi underground. It's just not as good.
Personal/private phones that people have separate from their work phones.
I know, but this is payphones. This is payphones out on the street.
If it's a payphone, then
think of it that way. These are payphones. Yeah, but instead of it looking like a box, where it's like the half glass box, not like a full thing, just like there's the little plastic thing. So there's a phone, like a place you can put down the phone book to look through it if you need to. Then there's like the shitty little glass walls. Yeah, those. But instead of it being a phone, it's probably also a phone. But instead of it just being that, it's also something you can use to directly connect to Eden from anywhere, which, by the way, do you really want to connect to Eden out on the street? Because it's a digital dive thing. So when you go onto Eden, you have to dive into Eden so your body becomes useless. Maybe I just have really bad anxiety and trust issues, but I feel like that's not a good choice.
I mean, I know there's many people who can immediately take advantage of that, depending on who you are.
I more or less mean, I feel like you don't want someone to steal your shit while you're logged in. And God forbid it's more. Yeah, God forbid it's more than just stealing your wallet.
Hey, guess what? Now you're my slave. Because you can't do anything about it.
Plus, they also go into, in this game specifically, more so than in the first game, but in this game specifically, they mention that if your real-world body can't move, like you're paralyzed or you're in a coma or whatever, but you're still technically logged in, you can't log out. You can't log... Yeah, .hack scenario. You can't log out, but you are technically still alive, so long as there is still an out to log out to, the logout thing will still be there. The issue is it just won't work. Meanwhile, if there is nothing left for you to log out to, it'll be grayed out or erased like it is in SAO. Regardless of which scenario ends up happening, you are in a very bad situation that involves digital dive. Just in .hack, I think it's much worse because they, at least in SAO, they explain that the maker's a psychopath. In .hack, there's no explanation. Just if something happens in a specific way, you die and it sucks.
I think it's
in the Tsukasa one, at least.
I was going to say, depending on if you're comatose or if you're straight dead.
In the Tsukasa one, you are straight dead. However, it's also not really thoroughly explained as to how you get to the point of straight dead. It's just some shit happened and you got KO'd in game and you might die or not.
So I think of it as, for if you're comatose, the thing that corrupted you, whichever one it be a data drain or via the big blob or whatever the fuck, if it comatoses you, the reason you got comatose is because you got touched with it, and it corrupted your data and sent that corrupt data back home to your body.
Which caused you to be in a coma.
Process it, so it freaks out.
Memory data, folks. It's a lot more interesting than it makes it seem in this game, and in this game, it's kind of a big deal.
Now, if you're just dead, then obviously
it's not sending back the data.
Yeah, it has nothing to send back to, so you're just stuck until you die.
In that case, it would be one of two things. Either there's no data to send back, or there's... Yeah, it would either be there's no data to send back, there's no place to send the data back to, or there was some sort of connection issue in between. But the more likely two cases are the sender or the receiver are screwed in somehow. Anyway, finished that quest, which wasn't honestly that long, which is why I didn't even know we're now over the hour mark. So, it is 9:30 for Keepa. Anywho, I hope everybody enjoyed the stream. Comment, like, subscribe, and hit the stupid little bell if you want to see more of my streams and the other crap that I upload. And YouTube is dumb, so once you hit the bell, you also have to select all, because otherwise you get nothing. Because it's stupid. Yeah. It'll either work or not. Depends. Plus, if you do it for all, it also gives you notifications on like when other people you like are doing videos. And then check out the stuff in the description below, which is links to the Facebook page, the Patreon, and the Discord server. We're always in the Discord server, and I will eventually set up stuff to where in one of my streams, people from the Discord server can do some interactive crap with like a poll or something on the server. So join the server, and you too can be part of whatever I decide to stream that involves a poll. Or maybe I'll do a poll for, like, the next RPG I play after this one. I don't know.
Possible. Well, for what yeah.
As of right now, for, like, me having a co-op with someone, there's the me and Kiba's Dark Souls 1 thing, and then maybe a me and Riley Dark Souls 2 thing, which will probably just turn into a me Dark Souls 2 thing.
Probably.
Pretty quickly. Because as much as I feel like he'll force himself to finish it, I feel like he might not force himself to finish it with my help. So it might start out as a co-op run and very almost immediately turn into what me and Kiba are doing with Dark Souls 1. The only difference is, me and Kiba aren't doing it by choice. I mean, we are, but it's less by choice and more by one or more of us was broke. Anyway, with that, we'll see you guys on the next one. See you later. Bye.